Bank has downgraded the energy sector recovery program. The World Bank has downgraded that since this government took office, the program is now unsatisfactory. Why? Primarily because a lot of the debts are not being paid, and if those debts are piling up while they are still collecting more money ostensibly to reduce the debts, there's some danger ahead of us that we want to speak about. Now, specifically, the New Patriotic Party will not allow the 1-month discount to be a substitute for accountability. The government will need to account properly for this levy and what it has used it for. And in filing urgent questions in Parliament, we will be looking for the details. Our committees will provide you some context to that. Now, we'll also be calling for a monthly monitor of the levy collections, refunds paid to industry, and pump prices against the exchange rate. And we'll also be engaging the transport unions, industry and consumer groups, and placing their burden squarely at the doorstep of Parliament. I want to invite the Honourable Kwame Abuaji, who is one of the co-chairs. He is our co-chair from Parliament. Kojo Pokun Safwa is co-chair with him. He will be addressing us in detail this morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media, and thank you for joining us. We have called this press conference to speak to 3 connected developments. The government announced 2 cedis per litre reduction in diesel prices. The Energy Sector Levies Amendment Bill 2026 passed by Parliament on Friday, 31st July, midnight around 1 a.m. And the World Bank downgrade of Ghana's energy sector recovery program. Before we turn to the figures, let us say this plainly. We recognize the rare hardship that high fuel prices continue to impose on commercial drivers, market women, farmers, fisher folk, and ordinary commuters across the country. And the New Patriotic Party stands in full solidarity with them. It is precisely because of that hardship that this fact we present today matter. On August 3rd, that's 2026, Goil posted petrol at 15 cedis 99 pesos per litre and diesel at 19 cedis 26 pesos per litre. In January 2025, petrol sold at around 15 cedis 13 pesos per litre and diesel at around 15 cedis 49 pesos per litre. Over that same period, the cedi strengthened from about 14 cedis 70 pesos to about 11 cedis 67 pesos to the dollar. Yet petrol today is about 5.7% higher than in January 2025, and diesel is about 24.3% higher. Even if the full 2 cedis reduction is passed through to the pump, diesel will still stand about 11 cedis for 11.4% above its January 2025 level. So let us be accurate about what this intervention is. It cushions part of the increase that has already happened. It does not reverse it, and it does not return households and businesses to where they stood 18 months ago. This relief cannot be assessed in isolation. On June 3rd, 2025, at 10 minutes past 11 at night, the government used a certificate of urgency to pass the Energy Sector Levies Amendment Bill 2025, imposing an additional 1 cedi on every litre of petroleum products. Our members of Parliament opposed it and walked out of the chamber. The Minister of Finance assured Ghanaians that a strong cedi will neutralize the impact, so that consumers will not pay extra at the pump. He promised that the projected 5.7 billion cedis in annual proceeds will retire energy sector debt and help end the cycle of power outages. That levy took effect on 16 July 2025, and it remains in force today. So consider the plain arithmetic. A consumer who has paid 1 cedi extra on every liter of petrol and diesel for more than a year now receives at best 2 cedi back on diesel for a single month and nothing at all on petrol. The 2 cedi reduction is not generosity. It is a partial temporary return to money already taken from consumers at midnight, while the levy continues to run. While the levy that takes it continues to run. The true cost and who pays it. The government described the intervention as a reduction in the regulatory margin rather than a subsidy. That distinction matters legally, but not economically. Foregone revenue is still a cost. On the basis of the earlier diesel program, which cost 800 million cedis over 2 months, this one-month measure implies roughly 400 million cedis in foregone revenue. Adding the earlier petrol relief of 99.4 million cedis, the cumulative cost of the stated 2026 interventions comes to approximately 1.3 billion cedis. That 400 million cedis in a single month is money that cannot simultaneously service energy sector debt, maintain rules, or reduce the deficit. If the intervention is unbudgeted, it widens the financing gap. If margins owed to industry are deferred, it creates arrears in the petroleum supply chain. There is no free relief. The only question is who pays and when. On Friday, that's 2026, July 31st, Parliament raised the energy sector shortfall and debt repayment levy on fuel oil by 1 cedi 69 pesos per litre, from 24 pesos per litre to 1 cedi 93 pesos per litre, and extended the road fund levy to fuel oil. The government says this closes a misclassification loophole that cost an estimated 25 million United States dollars between January and June this year, and it promises refunds to eligible industrial users within 14 days. The anti-evasion objective is legitimate, but the framework is not yet in place. Government has not published who will administer the refunds, who qualifies, how refunds will be financed, or what happens to rejected claims. Companies must pay upfront and wait. That is a working capital burden on industry, and industry will pass it on. Which brings us to a simple question the government must answer. Where a company embeds the upfront levy in its prices and is later refunded, the company recovers its money, but the consumer who bore the passed on cost does not. Will costs previously transferred to consumers be refunded to them, and through what mechanism? If the answer is no, then the refund regime compensates firms while ordinary Ghanaians quietly absorb costs. The minister promised will never reach them. Then the World Bank's verdict. All of this is happening against a sobering backdrop. In June 2026, the World Bank downgraded Ghana's energy sector recovery program from moderately satisfactory to unsatisfactory. The combined losses of ECG and NEDCO have risen from $1.257 billion in 2022 to $1.517 billion United States dollars by May 2026, against a target of $525 million for 2027. The reasons cited include stalled reforms, delayed procurement, and weak governance. Ghana cannot solve a debt and arrears crisis by creating new hidden revenue losses. The questions we are asking the government and he has to answer, is this. We therefore put the following questions to the government. First, which specific margins, levies or taxes are being reduced to finance the 2 cedi diesel relief? And what is the total revenue loss? Second, has this been provided for in the 2026 budget? And what expenditure will be cut to offset it? Thirdly, what mechanism will ensure transport fares and prices of essential goods actually reflect the relief? 4, will the 1 cedi per litre levy remain at its full rate during the relief period? And will costs previously transferred to consumers be refunded? And fifth, what objective trigger determines whether this intervention ends, continues, or is replaced? What the New Patriotic Party is proposing is we support measures that genuinely protect citizens, but compassion without physical discipline is not sustainable policy. We call on the government to publish the full petroleum price build-up and the financing sources before implementation, to cap the intervention at a disclosed physical amount and report weekly on liters subsidized and revenue forgone, to prioritize targeted relief for public transport, food distribution, agriculture, and fishing, rather than an indefinite universal subsidy, to apply automatic sunset clauses with objective crude price and exchange rate triggers, and to pay industry claims promptly so that this relief does not become the next generation of arrears. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the 2 cedis reduction may ease the pressure for a month, but a 1-month discount on diesel, financed opaquely alongside a permanent levy taken at midnight and a downgraded energy sector, is not an economic strategy. Ghanaians deserve to know who pays, how the relief is financed, and how the resulting revenue gap will be prevented from becoming new debt. And we will not stop at demands. The New Patriotic Party will act on 4 fronts. In Parliament, our members will file urgent questions demanding the financing sources of the 2 cedis relief, the budgetary provision behind it, and a definitive answer on whether the 1 cedi levy will remain at its full rate during the relief period, and whether costs previously transferred to consumers will be refunded. In scrutiny, our Policy Coordinating Committee will track and publish month by month the collections of the energy sector levies, the refunds actually paid to industry, and the movement of pump prices against the exchange rate, so that Ghanaians can see for themselves how much of the cedi strength is reaching the pump. With stakeholders, we will engage the transport unions, industry, and consumer groups directly and place the burden they carry on the parliamentary record. And in policy, we will put forward the alternative, a transparent, rules-based shock response framework with published price build-ups, disclosed physical caps, targeted relief for transport, food distribution, agriculture and fishing, and automatic sunset triggers in place of midnight levies and 1-month discounts. The question we'll keep asking, with the government's own figures in hand, is a simple one. Stability for whom? Until Ghanaians get answers, we will not relent. Thank you, and may God bless our homeland, Ghana.
So at this point, if there are questions, the co-chairpersons will respond to questions, and then they will do a quick wrap-up. So if you have questions, we'll take it.
No questions?
When we say that they've been downgraded, for instance, my name is Ube. I work with Change on Team. When we say that they've been downgraded to unsatisfactory. For many Ghanaians, what does it mean? How does it affect us, the ordinary Ghanaian? How does that affect us?
So we all know that the energy sector is challenged. And one of the things that we all know that the energy sector is challenged. One of the things the World Bank seek to do with us is to help us bring our energy sector to effectiveness. So under the Energy Sector Recovery Program and the agreement that was signed with the World Bank, there are certain benchmarks that we are supposed to meet. Now, World Bank is helping the government to initiate certain policies, clean cooking for rural folks. And there are supposed to be some timely data that is given out by ECG, and all that is part of the Energy Sector Recovery Program. Now, look, we've had a very big challenge, and we've all heard that one of the biggest sectors that can collapse Ghana's economy is the energy sector, especially in the power, because of the deficit of how much we are not paying and how much is costing the nation. So the World Bank wanting us to basically make sure that there's transparency, we are able to collect more, collection efficiency, and all the things that they think will give the energy sector, the power sector, a healthy situation. This government has failed. And if you read the report, that's where there's bits where monies that the World Bank has given to the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance is supposed to release that money for the project implementation. And if you read the report, they said that no commencement authorization has been given by the Ministry of Finance. Meanwhile, the money is with the Ministry of Finance. Now, the other side is that if we delay in implementing, you've all heard the projection of how much the debt can be in the energy sector. We are talking $10 billion and stuff like that, okay? So the World Bank saying that we being downgraded to unsatisfactory means that we are not meeting the benchmarks that has been set by the World Bank. And that means that there isn't the improvement that we need in the energy sector, especially the power subsector. Please.
Okay. My name is Nabu, for various respects. We all know that after COVID, the petroleum sector spread. In fact, prices plummeted into some degree heights. And the position then, this has a true lambast the then government. To paint the picture as if the problem was not being managed very well. Today, what we are being told now is that things are not being done better than before. So, what is the accounting for that? Are they hiding something from us? Or is poor economic management, maybe poor energy planning policy?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Basically, look, I have always said on TV and on multiple platforms that the NDC did politics with the petrol prices. They said that the petrol prices were high because of bad economy, that we had a bad economy. The NPP government has run down the government, the economy was bad. When we had the mid-year review, Honorable Atofos, the finance minister, talks about all the rosiness, right? The economy is doing well. They are raising a lot of money to the extent that he's even put money away for projects in the future. So it's rosy. But the question is that this government is broke. They don't have money. Look, let me give you an example. Today, you have the 1 cedi that was introduced on top of the petroleum prices when they said that the petroleum prices were low. If they add 1 cedi, we won't see it. Wouldn't it be fair that while the prices are high, they remove that 1 cedi? The Ministry of Finance is refusing to touch any money coming to the Ministry of Finance. In fact, there is what you call the Price Recovery and Stabilization Levy, which was to be zeroed out when prices are high and brought back when prices are low. It's part of the ESLA. The Ministry of Finance has refused to touch that money. In fact, now when we are a net exporter, because we export crude oil, don't we? We budget $76 in our budget. When crude oil goes over $100, who is benefiting? Honorable Finance Minister, why is he not, all that money that he is getting, why does he still can't take any money out of his purse? But he's trying to accumulate debt at the MPA. The last time we did this exercise, as my colleague mentioned, 800 million Ghana cedis was the debt at MPA. Yesterday, I was on TV3 and the ranking on the NDC side came on TV3 and said that his figure says 200 million. It's not true. We do 200 to 263 million liters a month. Simple calculation. Let's call it 260 million liters a month of diesel. Multiply that by 2. Isn't that 520 million? So how can you get 200 million? So they are massaging the numbers to tell you that the numbers that is even accruing at NPA is not true. But we know that if you go to the NPA website, we do 260 million liters every month. So in the 2 months, they did 1 month of 2 cities and 1 month of 1 city. That gives us about 780 million Ghana cedis debt that is sitting at NPA now. Now they're doing another 520 million. You add that to that, it's more than 1.3 billion. And that is the debt that in the future they will ask me and you to now let them increase the primary distribution margin, the UPPF or the fuel margin or the boss margin to pay for that debt that's going to be at MPA. So the bottom line is that the NDC lied in opposition that, oh, the economy, the prices were high because the NPP was mismanaging the economy. It's not true. When prices are high in the world, it affects you whether your economy is well or not. In the UK, in the US, fuel prices, we all heard that Trump is worried that the midterm is coming in November and petroleum prices in America is high. The MPP managed the economy well, just that at that point, MPP did bad politics with that.
So can you give the clarification that this downgrade is a testimony to the future?
Okay, so let me explain. There is this conversation where the Ministry of Finance is telling everybody that they are clearing all the debts in the energy sector, right? And they publicly published that they are clearing all the indebtedness in the energy sector. It's not true. The figures that is published by the PULC does not sustain the fact, does not support the fact that they are clearing all the indebtedness. This is what they have done. One, they have negotiated with the IPPs that, look, the IPP debt, they are going to ring-fence the existing debt, which is about $1.1 billion, right? $1.1 billion. They've ring-fenced it to pay it over 4 years. Now, yes, there's an improvement in how much they are getting into the cash waterfall. So now what they do is that there's level A and there's level B in the cash waterfall. The first thing they do is that, let's say there's 1.8 billion Ghana cedis that comes into the waterfall. They take care of all the IPP indebtedness. So they pay off what we owe the IPP so that there is no arrears in the IPP bills. That is true. Nobody will deny that. But what is left in the level B, the residue of the money is what they now share for the level B. Level B is the state-owned enterprises and all the other. MPP, we upgraded WAPCO. You remember WAPCO will be threatening to shut down their pipe. Because we want to make sure that WAPCO was paid and we don't get the West African gas pipeline cut off. We upgraded WAPCO into level A. So now WAPCO gets paid from the money that comes in. But what they are doing is that the residue of the money, they are not settling all the bills from VRA, Gridco, Ghana Gas, and all these companies. So they are putting indebtedness in those institutions. Now, to your point of Dumso, look, I have always said that now people say the light don't come off. When I first said that the light don't go off within this time because of the weather, people laughed at me. Today, you go to Energy Commission publication, Outlook. They've actually admitted that statement I made. And Energy Commission Outlook has put that in their thing that between the month of June, July, August, the weather is so cold that nobody puts on air condition. And that brings about 300 megawatts to 350 megawatts pressure that comes off the grid. We go into December, January, February. All our peak demand in this country has been recorded in either December or January. Why is that? Because that's the hottest part of this year. People sometimes confuse when it's raining to cold weather. No, it could be raining, but it's hot. Within the month that we are in, I don't even put on my AC. Everybody is aware how cold it is now. So the weather is cold. We don't put on ACs and fans. That is why we are projecting that. One, though they added 1 cedi, that 1 cedi, at first, if you read the energy sector stabilization levy, the report that he brought to Parliament, the levy collected about 8 billion Ghana cedis, right? Then there was a balance brought forward of about 2 cedis, about 2 billion. So they got 10 billion. Then he is telling the finance committee in parliament, as the parliament on the whole, through the report, that he borrowed the fund 12 billion. So the total payment the Ministry of Finance made in 2025 under the ESLA was 22 point change billion. 12 billion of that was borrowed from the accountant general. What it means is that going forward, Atuforsen does not have money for the energy ministry to buy fuel. So if the pressure comes on the grid and the gas is not there and they need to buy liquid fuel, they wouldn't have money to buy liquid fuel. And that is why we are saying that because the challenges they have and the government not having money after December into 2027, when the lights start going off, it's going to be very permanent.
Sorry, let me add this to it. Last year, Energy Ministry were budgeted for 1.2 billion cedis. But Atuforsen releases only 700 million cedis to the ministry. So where are they going to get the money to buy the fuel, as my brother is saying? Over to you.
Yes. All right, I'm Christian Yale, TV3. Just following from where you left, the report on the energy sector support account, the 1 cedi fuel levy, which generated about 8.8 billion cedis in 2025, and government having to borrow 12 billion extra from the accountant general to support payment in the energy sector, which tells you that really there are problems, because if you introduce a tax measure, the 1 cedi fuel, which is unable to address the challenges you perceive to have addressed. Now, last week, the amendment to the energy sector levies is basically on the front that there are people who are misclassifying diesel as fuel oil. The minister tells us in the first half of the year, we've lost about $25 million. And if those leakages are not stopped, we are going to lose about 1 billion cedis every year. My question simply goes as this. What would you then propose as the real solutions to tackling some of these leakages and the shortfalls which the tax measures are not addressing?
Look, when there are leakages and there are problems in importation and people are reclassifying, it's policing of the products. You don't do that by implementing a tax that's going to hurt the populace. This 704% tax that they've introduced, as my colleague said, is going to increase products because industry uses the heavy fuel oil. The industry are going to not say that I'm going to get a refund later, and then because of that, he's not going to increase his prices. So products that are produced by these industries are going to go up. What the government should have done is to police better. Make sure that there are real measures put in place to stop HFO abuse. The taxes have never been the solution. In the Western world, they want people to stop smoking, they impose tax. They say there's too many fatty food, they impose tax. It has never stopped anybody from smoking. So taxes is not the way to stop some of these things. What we are saying is that the reason the Ministry of Finance is imposing these taxes is that the government does not have money. And we keep hammering this point because they are painting a rosy picture to the whole country that there is money, the economy is doing well, but we think that it is not doing well. I think they want us to do a summary in chief. So let me go on. Okay. But before that, let me make a quick statement on something that is being misrepresented, and I think is very, before I do the chief summary. The union, the ECG union issued a statement. And NPP in our manifesto on page 175, we have a position on private sector participation for ECG. The NPP's position is private sector participation in the retail market, which is billing, customer service. We still stick to that. The reason at this juncture we are not taking on the government is that the government has only appointed a transaction advisor. We don't know what PSP they are going to implement. If the government comes out and says that they also want to do the retail PSP, which is collection, billing, and customer service, then we are with them. So let not the ECG, our brothers and sisters in ECG, feel that we are not with them. We are with you, but what we want to do, we've stated it clearly in our manifesto. If Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was president today, he would have implemented the retail in the customer service. So I think that's very important. The ECG workers should be patient with everybody. Let the transaction advisor bring his report, and then we will see the way forward, whether we support what this government is doing or we are at par or we don't agree with what the government wants to do. Press conference na Nitefa na Umashe. Say efiti na wochie twemu ye nyina ye hu say petroleum prices fango ebo ewa manone ekosoro. Petrol ne diesel ekosoro no aban no nhyehyɛ ya odi to kwan mu ni say odi 2 cedis anka ewo diesel so no na yenyim free so. Eno no eba eboa obia ba obia nya kakra atu ni botom. But the yenye kan say ene say what the yete ho na be ka kire say 1 cedi bia eda ho a ewo energy sector no o de 1 cedi be ka ho na price call for more be year free so. Ene price ne call from no when ye no o say MPA for na emfa 2 cedis no omu nyi 2 cedis en free ho. Enti yenye press conference ano pay ye ne say sa 2 cedis no say we are at the eka ebeto MPA bosumi a etwa mu May any April mu yi 2 cedis no free diesel so no at the about 800 million Ghana cedis and at the eka no ebeto ho ene ye koye nim no omu yi 2 cedis no for 1 month no at the another 400 about roughly 400 million Ghana cedis and about beto ho na your press conference enyoma miensa ene de tudwa 1 yen nyina yete say Friday no aban no the bill be called parliament or they call parliament no or could increase heavy fuel oil and no industries are almost different no and a year no or the 2 or the 1 cedi 67 pesos and a cocan home which is about 700%. And I hear say no so if you so be yet smuggle heavy fuel oil no now pese usi ano kwan enye taxes na edisi ano kwan enti aban no increase sa tax no from 24 pesos to 193 pesos no ebe ha ndwumakuo a omu use sa heavy fuel oil no. The third in some etwaso miensa a yedo eto kwan World Bank yeti krom ha ye nyina ya te say World Bank for abeka kire ye say ye energy sector no problem wo ho. Power sector no sika ejeje no entumi ensi akatua ni nyoma osi etuaka inframa ye de no nyamahode no entumi entuaka enti World Bank emma ye nhyehyeye ene ye sign contract say ombema yiska emma ye de asoso nyoma bia no na no na World Bank ba be ye review last year e ka kire ye say yes your performance in that agreement no your performance your performance in that agreement no enkoye enti enkoye ni enti no aban no emfa kwan a obefa so amana koye ade ba ko a aban no World Bank kan ya ebu aban no for any say enyoma bia e wo se omu diska eye no Ministry of Finance e ka kire ndwumakuo ni say commencement authorization tumi a omo de be start adwuma no Ministry of Finance emfa ema wo mu anase eche enu nti no ena ama World Bank no adru pempensu bi a o se ye modern bono e wo form nti o se etumi enyi bi a ema eka aba abeda ho ECG ni net ko na ema eka abeda ho meda obi wo e bi a 1 or 2 questions in tria.
It's okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Media, from here, we are moving down there. The second phase of our engagement will be happening. So please, let's move to our